This is a perennial problem, not only in Gauteng, but in other parts of the country, and seemingly it's getting worse. The death toll during this initiation season in the Eastern Cape is rising. Traditional initiation practices here in Johannesburg and Tshwane have now been suspended. The Health Minister, Kiba, says 23 boys have died in the Eastern Cape, mostly from dehydration. Now he's calling for the initiation season to be restricted to winter, saying that it's much safer than summer. But what's the position in this province? Kiba Kekana is with us now, Chief Director of Co-operative Governance and Traditional Affairs here in Gauteng. Mr. Kekana, good evening to you. Thanks for popping in tonight. What then was behind the initial decision to suspend in this province?
The decision to suspend was taken largely by the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities, CRL in brief. They took this decision after consulting various stakeholders, and in their investigations they found that a lot of things were happening which were against this sacred cultural practice, which is an old traditional ritual.
What type of things?
One, boys aged around 15 years or so were actually conducting this, pretending or calling themselves traditional surgeons. Also, these were they became havens for criminal activities, but also illegal land occupation, because they were just seeing a site and occupying it without proper procedures from the municipalities.
It's not the first time that we've heard issues like this being raised.
Yes.
You've now been forced to issue a reminder to municipalities here in Gauteng to adhere to the bylaws. But why is there seemingly no regulation or control over this? As I say, it's a perennial problem, isn't it?
Indeed, it is. Hence, our approach, because the custodians of this cultural practice are the recognized traditional leaders. As government, we come in two ways. First, to do a regulatory framework, which is in line with the Constitution, and secondly, we do monitoring and evaluation, because we've got a provincial task team that incorporates quite a number of stakeholders, from community safety, health, education, and National House of Traditional Leaders. Now, the greatest challenge at the moment, we do not have an overarching national legislation. That bill, the customary initiation bill, it is at the NCOP processes. So we're hoping, or once it is consolidated, it is passed, then it will solve quite a number of problems. At the moment, we are relying on municipal bylaws and other relevant legislations, such as the Children's Act, Criminal Procedure Act, and other related.
So the one issue is legislative,
correct.
But on the other hand, how much tension is there between government and the traditional leaders?
Well, in Gauteng at the moment, because we've got two recognized traditional leaders, which are the custodians. So in terms of the two, we're working very, very, very well with them. And they are both in the city of Tshwane, the two recognized traditional leaders. In all these other areas, we do not have traditional leaders.
And that's the problem.
That is the problem. And the other challenge that we had in the city of Johannesburg, it is the only city in the province without a specific bylaw on initiation. So in a number of other municipalities, there are bylaws governing that. So quite a number of people then push themselves around the city of Joburg. But the other challenge, it's a cross-boundary issue, where kids from Gauteng are taken across Mpumalanga, because there's permission granted, or from the Free State or from Limpopo. So in this provincial monitoring task team, we've got stakeholders even coming from the other
Isn't the fundamental problem, even though the Gauteng provincial government is urging municipalities to enforce these bylaws, you simply don't have enough people on the ground to do it? And as hard as you try, this is going to perpetuate.
I think it's a societal issue. In the first instance, even in the statement made by the MEC, Lebogang Maile, the first point of call is that parents, families, should be very, very, very vigilant as to taking their kids to bogus or illegal initiations. Because there is a procedure. Municipalities are the only authorities that can grant permission. And then the second aspect of it, the society as a whole must be very vigilant and know where illegal initiation schools are run, because this has become
and then blow the whistle is what you're hoping.
blow the whistle. Now the other challenge is in this area, because there's money involved, there's also a question of intimidation. Some parents, because kids are literally abducted in some instances, so parents, are not, some of the parents do not report these cases up until the monitoring task team.
And when they are reported, again, are police doing enough? Do they have enough intelligence, enough capacity to enforce the law?
Like I said at the beginning, or the greatest challenge at the moment, we do not have a specific legislation. So we rely, one, it would be Children's Act, that children under the age of 16, under the age of 18.
But you also said that if they are children attending illegal schools must be regarded as abducted.
Yes.
That would then become an SAPS matter.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because we've got a permission to do that. So there are certain conditions that must be met. They are non-negotiable. Hence, at the moment, the city of Joburg, in the city of Joburg and in the city of Tshwane, there are no permission granted for initiation schools because they failed the test. They failed to meet the minimum condition set by the CRL.
This is a real headache for your department.
Indeed it is, because it requires a dedicated capacity. Because especially if you look at an area such as Gauteng itself, being introduced to the recognition of traditional leaders, having to respond to this challenge. And like I said, the other motivating factor of these illegal schools is because of the money involved. People are charging between 2,000 Rand and 2,005 per individual initiate. So that's why these people will just get numbers and volumes, because out of this exercise, if we've got 30 students, 30 initiates, we've got about 60,000 Rand.
And the concern, as I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, is the death toll in the Eastern Cape is rising, and I'm presuming a similar problem in Gauteng. That's your biggest concern?
It is our biggest concern. Hence, this approach of having this monitoring task team. They've already concluded first phase of monitoring the West Rand, where we've got about 5 initiation schools, just to check first the compliance, and then